I'm bringing everything I did in the home services industry to the excavation and septic industry. And this industry is still behind the times. It's like plumbing was in the 90s.
What's up, Skid Steer Nation? It's Ryan Deemer, and I'm excited to bring to you our guest today. Have you ever wondered how a plumber turned his small town service into a multi-million-dollar empire and then pivoted to mastering septic systems with just YouTube as his teacher? Well, today we're going to talk with Russell Furr. He's a self-made entrepreneur, and he's the gentleman behind RTF Landworks. From selling his first massive venture and to starting afresh with an excavator and a vision, his journey is a testament to resilience and ingenuity. He's turned personal lows and professional highs into lessons, crafting a niche in a market hungry for change. Today, he's going to share with us how he sold his first business for, yes, you're hearing this correctly, more than 7 figures, and why starting over was the best decision yet. Speaking of ingenuity and making smart choices, I also want to tell you about Skid Steer Nation. Just like Russell, we understand the value of quality and precision in shaping success. Skid Steer Nation is your go-to online store for American-made, high-quality skid steer attachments. Our expert team's ready to help you find the perfect attachment to not only grow your business, but also improve your profits. With the right tools from Skid Steer Nation, you can streamline your operations and unlock new levels of efficiency, just like Russell has. Visit skidsteernation.com today, and let's grow your business together. Russell, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan. It's exciting to be here because when I first started my excavation business, I found your podcast and I actually learned a lot from it, in the beginning. So it's pretty cool to be here.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's why we do it. Like, just to hear guys say, hey, thanks for getting other guys in the industry on the show or giving us your insight personally. I was able to take something away from that and improve my business. That's exactly why we do the podcast. So to hear that it'll keep me driving forward.
Awesome.
So, I mean, let's just start with the elephant in the room, man. You grow a massive business, 20 some employees, and you exit for a very large number. I'm going to guess there's probably more lessons to owning and operating a business in that story than there is in where you're at currently with excavation.
Absolutely. That was a fun ride, that company. I started it in 2018. Like you mentioned, I'm a plumber by trade. I started when I was 17. I basically have an 8th grade education. I dropped out of high school my second freshman year. I never passed 9th grade. Got my GED, got my driver's license, and just went straight to work as a landscape laborer. Did that for about a year or so, then got into plumbing and just worked my way up and eventually started my own business in 2018 in the small town that I live in called Culpeper, Virginia. It's a small town, but it was, these service companies, and like my background is in service, not new construction or commercial or anything like that. It's residential service and replacement. That's my background. So, all these service companies, they typically operate a lot differently in the kind of the larger metro areas. They're a lot more structured. They're a lot more dialed in. They focus on the customer experience a lot more. Whereas you get more into the rural areas, it's still real old school. And they just do things a lot differently. So I had a vision to bring like a big style company to the small town where I live. And the town was hungry for it because I could see it. I could see all these companies, these larger companies coming out of the Metro DC area down into my area. So I started the Culpeper Home Services in 2018 with a vision of doing, I'm a plumber, so of course it's going to be a plumbing company, but I called it Culpeper Home Services because I ultimately wanted to add electrical and HVAC so I could provide all the services the customer would need. Because, in a small town with a limited customer base, it's good to be able to provide as many services as possible while still staying under the umbrella of not getting outside of stuff that might take you down the wrong path and cost you a bunch of money in the end. So I stayed within the realm of home services. And within 2 years, I'd added HVAC and electrical. And the ultimate goal was to sell it. I wanted to build it and sell it. And so I built the company a certain way that would be appealing to a private equity firm to come in and buy because it was just so popular in my industry. These private equity firms coming in and doing these roll-ups of these home services companies. And so I built it in the image of what I thought that they would want to buy. And that's exactly what happened. So at the end of 2022, I sold the company to a large outfit, and I thought I was going to retire.
Yeah. And let's be honest, even when we're 80 years old, if we're still alive and kicking, retirement's not an option for an entrepreneur because sitting around is just depressing.
It is absolutely is depressing.
Man.
I was going in a million different directions, man, because I'd never not worked before, and so I was just going in a million different directions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I finally bought an excavator, a little, because we also were doing a whole lot of work around our property. I built a shop. We had a pool put in, and doing a lot of kind of earth work and for all that kind of stuff. So I bought a little mini excavator, a little 3.5-ton Yanmar, just to use around the property. And I finally was like, I need to just take this thing and go to work. You know what I mean? Like, let me take this thing and just go to work. And I'm a big fan of Digging Life 21 on YouTube, and I've been watching him for a couple of years. And I used to watch videos of him just like grading driveways and just doing simple stuff. And I used to sit there and watch and think, like, I can do that. Like, this is simple, And I got the tractor behind me. That was my trophy I bought myself after I sold my business. I had like this little tiny, like 26 horsepower Kubota tractor. And, the one thing you learn about equipment is usually when you buy a piece of equipment, you realize you should have bought something bigger, which was the case with the tractor and the excavator. So I traded in the little 26 horsepower on the one behind me, which is a 50th anniversary Grandel 6060. When I sold my business, I got that. And I just went out grading driveways and doing that kind of thing. And then with the excavator, same thing, just doing whatever I could do with the equipment that I had. But then I realized that, when you're in that realm of kind of general excavation, every one of the brothers out there competing for the same work. And like I've heard you say a lot, you got to niche down. And with my background in plumbing, I did some septic work early, in my career too, a little bit here and there. I was like, I'm just going to go into septic systems because I feel like it's a good niche to get into, kind of fits my skill sets. So took about 6 months to get all the licensing squared away. But I got all that stuff squared away. And then I went full bore into septic installations about December of 23. And I've just been rolling ever since. And I got a backlog of installations at the moment. And, things are well. I'm very lucky.
That's fantastic, man. And when you talked about structuring your business in a specific way, so it was a sellable business to a VC firm, I've heard a lot of other businesses doing that. And I'm a big proponent of like structuring any business the way like you're going to sell it, because it forces you to really document processes, build SOPs, have frameworks. And at the end of the day, it actually makes operating your business smoother. Did you notice that throughout your experience?
Absolutely. One thing about me, like the goal was to sell, the goal was always to sell it. So I always offloaded all of my duties because there's a couple things. If someone buys your business, it's got to be able to run itself, So all of my duties the entire time I owned that business, I was just offloading more and more of my duties to where it got to the point where I was just doing the numbers, the business. Everything else was handled by employees. And you're right. The thing, I got it to where it was running itself, and that was the goal.
Yeah. And I don't care if you're a solopreneur, if you got a crew of 2 guys, or you got 3 crews with 20 guys. If you structure your business with the mindset of like, hey, is this a sellable business? Even if you never want to sell it, you've got a much smoother running machine.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the key, man. Just get and the thing about business owners is we have all the information in our heads, and we forget to realize that we need to educate our employees too. Like, oh, why did so-and-so do that? Well, probably because he's never been trained, or he's never been told the right way to do it, or something like that. And that's like a big thing in the industry. It's like, employees mess something up, but they've never been trained, and the owner just wants to get all frustrated and act like it's the employee's fault when really it's the owner's fault because he's never trained his people.
Right.
So yeah, we were very diligent. I was very diligent on training. We held weekly training with the technicians. And it was really just all about customer service training, because at the end of the day, like I used to train my guys all the time. Like, what I would do in the training rooms, I'd pull up the Google map and I'd do like, Plumbers in Culpeper. And I'd pull up the Google map on the TV I had in the training room. And I'd be like, any of these competitors out here can solve the customer's plumbing problems. Why are they calling us? What differentiates us from everyone else in the marketplace? And it's our process. The CSRs were trained to handle the customers a certain way when they answer the phone at the first point of contact. The dispatching happened a certain way. The technicians were trained to run the call a certain way. At the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with the plumbing. Like, anybody can fix the plumbing. It comes down to the experience they have with the company.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big proponent of mimicking the franchise model for your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, just someone out there is doing what you want to do. Figure out what they're doing and imitate, but also innovate. And that's my motto, is imitate and innovate, because make it better. Like, build on what they're doing, be different, like figure out kind of what they're doing, but take it and make it better.
Yeah. And like, let's take septics, for example, right? You're not going to dig a hole better. You might be doing it more efficiently, but a hole's a hole. So it all goes back to the process with the customer from the first time you meet them until you shake hands and leave. And that's where you can really innovate a business.
Absolutely. Because as far as the customer knows, anybody can do the septic system. Like,
right.
The septic system is, I used to tell the reason that we're in that house is the least important reason we're in that house, And what I mean by that is, us replacing that water heater is really the least important reason we're in that house. The most important reason is the customer interaction.
Yeah. And like, getting your team to buy into, like, they can't take a hot shower. That's the problem.
Yep. For sure. Yep.
There's a little water on the floor. You got to mop up. You just clean it up. That's nothing to complain about.
Yep. Doing the little things that other customers don't do, that other companies don't do, like bringing their newspaper in from off the curb, or, one thing I used to love doing for customers was, customers get their storm doors replaced on the front door of their house, and you go in and out and it always slams. There's that little strut that just needs a little screwdriver. You just rotate that screw and that strut a little bit, and you can get that door closed. And customers just don't know that kind of stuff. Your average person just doesn't know that. And they sit here and they deal with this door slamming constantly for their entire lives. And then they see it, and then I come in there and adjust the strut and get it closed and nice and easy for them. And they're just over the moon about it. But it does two things. It serves the customer. And number two, it allows me to come and go through the house more efficiently, because I don't need to sit here and gently close the door behind me.
Yeah. That's a great example.
Things like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great example, man. So you're doing plumbing, you're doing HVAC. Did you add electrical also, or did you stop at HVAC?
Yep. HVAC, electrical, and plumbing.
And you were doing all three of them, man.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that I'm talking to a guy who grew a business in less than 5 years, over 20 employees, sold it for a very large number, and then chose working with sewage as his next venture.
Well, I'm a plumber, so it's kind of a natural progression.
But, I guess so. But I mean, at some point you're like, I want a little easier. I wanted a little easier.
But when I'm out there on these jobs, man, I'm like, I'm happy to be on the clean side of the equation these days,
Yeah, that's true. So tell me this, like, are you building this excavation business in the same model that you want to sell it in the future? Or is this what you're going to do yourself for a while?
No, this is for me, and this is for my family.
Okay.
The last one I wanted to build and sell as a stepping stone off to something else. I didn't know what something else was at the time, but I just knew I wanted to do something different. But I'm having fun with this, because with that last company, I had so many employees doing everything for me. Like, I got lazy. I really didn't do a whole lot in terms of work, really. But now, like, I work completely by myself. I have no employees, and I'm out here doing these septic installations 100% solo, and I love it. It's, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And, and I want my son to be able to work in the business. He's 12 right now. And also my dad, I want him to be able to come into the business at some point. He's like 62, he's a mechanic, so my whole family's mechanics. So I've got the kind of mechanical skill kind of my blood, you could say. But yeah, I want my dad to be able to retire in the business, and I want my son to be able to come up in the business too. And that's kind of the vision behind what I'm doing now, because RTF are actually the initials of my dad and my son.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So that's your vision from the day you started it.
Yep.
Yeah. So because you're building this just for yourself, are you still following the exact types of frameworks and the structure you use to build a sellable business, or are you a little bit lazier on that?
In terms of the customer interaction, it's the same.
Yeah.
And just the accounting and the numbers and just the business stuff, it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about it is when you're doing home service work, you got to be dressed a certain way. Everything's got to be kind of rolled out on a silver platter for the customer. But when you're doing excavation and septic work, it's all outside dirt work. So it's like, I don't have to wear a polo shirt that's tucked in with my belt and this and that. It's like I can operate a little looser compared to the way that we used to do it, and I really enjoy that too.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of making sure that you know the difference between dirty and work site dirty. I don't see you, Russell, wearing 4-year-old jeans with 3 big holes in the knees. But at the same point, you don't need to have
presentable, of course.
Yeah, but you don't need to be wearing khakis either. So,
well, actually, I do wear khakis.
Do you really?
Yeah, nice. I do, man. I do.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I like to look nice. I like to look nice and presentable, and it's just what I like to do.
Yeah. Talking about nice and presentable, I mean, you can obviously tell from like your shoulders and stuff that you take some pride in some physical fitness. How do you feel that helps you as a business owner?
Well, it keeps me mentally sharp. It keeps me feeling good about myself, because when you feel good about yourself, you're going to perform good in every aspect of life. I'm strong. I've got no problems digging and raking and hopping on and off the machine, 100 times a day, running the grade stick and everything else and humping all the materials around. Like I said, I do the entire septic installation by myself. And I just love aging and getting better with age. A lot of people, they get all depressed when they turn 40 and all this other stuff. And I'm like, man, it's an opportunity. Like every day is an opportunity to be better than you were the day before. And that's the way I am with just everything in life. Like the way that I eat, the way that I train, the way that I do everything. Like every day is an opportunity to be better. And there's nothing better than being like a 50-year-old guy. I'm 43, but there's nothing better than being like a 50-year-old guy and being in amazing shape, and just being full of life and so that's what I'm aiming for.
I love that, man. Yeah, I get a little lazy at times, and my body type's never going to have a 6-pack. Even when I was working out heavy, just wasn't in the cards for the way my body's designed. But you can definitely tell a difference in your mental focus when you're taking care and doing physical activity for yourself. And it does make a drastic difference. It really allows me to find time to do deep work when you need to work on your business and not just doing the tasks that are associated with working in your business.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's huge. It's been a part of my life for a long time. I was overweight pretty much all of my life until I was like in my late 20s. And I lost like 50 pounds. I was a big dude, and I lost like 50 pounds and kept it off ever since, and kind of learned how I should be eating and how I should be living. And and I've made a lifestyle change basically, and that's what it takes. You got to make a lifestyle change.
Yeah. And it's this, to make the decision. Don't think about it, commit to it, and just make the decision. And I think that's a great piece of advice for any area of your life, whether it be business, personal, whatever. I mean, people say, oh, it took me 6 months to make the decision to do this. I'm like, no, it didn't. It took you 6 months of procrastinating on making a decision, because a decision happens in a moment.
Absolutely. That's the thing. You got to make quick decisions, especially in business. You have to make quick decisions. You just have to make quick decisions and be ready to pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be so firm in your decision that you go down with a ship.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, all right. So you're going stir crazy. You mentioned before the interview started that you actually started to feel like a little bout of depression because you had no purpose after you sold your business. That's a real deal, man. I did the same thing. I went through that same area, and I don't think business owners that haven't had a break understand that we're just wired different. Like being lazy, sitting around, and no purpose is not good for the soul.
It's not good at all. Everyone thinks they want to do that, but when it comes down to actually doing it, it doesn't usually work.
No,
It's like like for me, I've got it. I love to build and create, and that's what I like to do. I love to be creative, and then when I'm not being creative, it's just like there's something in me that's not there. It's like I'm missing something. I'm not happy.
yeah. So you sell the business. I'm going to assume at that point you had some projects around the house or the property, and you had some things that kept you busy that you could get up and do in the morning. But like once those projects started waning and getting completed, how long from that point until you're like, this is not sustainable, did it take for you to reach there?
It was really soon actually, like within the first like month or something, but I was just ignoring it. And, I got into business coaching. So I was doing some of that, and I was all over the place, doing a little bit of everything, just trying to find something that would, kind of satisfy me. Um, but I had a bunch of projects going on around the house. I had a shop built. Uh, my wife had a pool put in, so I was kind of doing a lot of work around the house, doing a lot of land work around here, kind of move a bunch of dirt around, stuff like that. So I bought an excavator, a Yanmar 3.5 ton mini excavator. But then when I got into the septics, I sold that and got a new Cat 306.
Yeah. I saw that you had a video on Facebook too of that Cat 306, and you were kind of walking through. I don't know the name Cat uses for their system, but you basically have the dig system. And how
Yeah,
important and crucial is that for you as a solo owner?
Well, it's key because it's it allows me to basically do. It allows me to dig very, very close to where I need to be, and then I double check everything with the laser and kind of skim if I need to skim a little bit more. But it's called the ease of use system, and it was key to have that on the machine, because I can program. It's really cool, man. You can program how deep you want to dig. You can program it to dig on a slope. You can program all kinds of cool stuff into it, and it also tells you like the angle, the bucket, the angle of the bucket, and everything. So as I'm digging trenches, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I just hop out and double check with the laser, because the laser is what the inspection is done off the laser. The inspection is not done off what the machine says. So
Right.
I'll always want to double check everything with the laser and make adjustments if I need to. But that system is key because I don't need to pay a guy 30 grand a year to hold a grade stick. If I had an employee, he'd be standing around most of the time, like collecting trash and maybe running the rake or the shovel or running the grade stick or whatever. But like, I can do all that. Like there's nothing hard about that.
Yeah. You're seeing the people that are grasping onto the new technologies, whether it be like the easy system you're talking about, and the different GPS and laser dot things, and the rotators that you can get for the excavators. And it's crazy how much work 1 and 2 people can do compared to a team of 6 that's using traditional methods.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was talking to a guy. I was talking to a guy the other day who does septic installations, and he was telling me that it would take him 3 guys. When he does septic installs, it takes him 3 guys out there. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know. I think, and I understand because I had a big business in the past, but a lot of these businesses are overstaffed also. And I was guilty of that. I was guilty of overstaffing. But you don't really know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And I tell you what, labor eats up your profit more than anything else. You know? So, being staffed correctly is really important.
It is. And did you find that when you gave people ownership of a department or a crew, and then you supplied them with the proper training and tools, that you actually got more efficiencies out of them because they have more confidence in themselves?
Absolutely. So I'm real big on leadership, and especially when I had the last business, because I had to be a leader because I had all these employees and everything. But I was really big on number one, being a leader myself and developing leaders underneath of me, and then those leaders developing leaders underneath of them, so that everyone just has this kind of self accountability, and everyone kind of feels like they got a piece of the pie in a sense.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. And I've talked about it on some other episodes, but especially my first business back when I was in the nightclub business in my 20s, giving that manager the power to take over ownership of certain areas of managing or Friday nights, your busy nights, and stepping back was really difficult. But once I did, and then I started training him how to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, and then watching him start taking on other areas of the business that I didn't ask him to do because he has that pride in the company now. And it was so awesome to like witness firsthand. And for me, I was at an age that it just kind of happened. I wasn't planned. I wasn't old enough to know the outcome that was coming, but I was old enough to recognize, wow, this is really cool. Look what happens when you invest in the right people in the right place.
Absolutely. I used to send people to training all the time. You want to invest in your people. That's why employees stay at a company. They want to feel like there's some room for advancement, and they want to feel like the owner appreciates them and invests in them. So that's huge.
Did you invest in your team outside of work? Did you find things that were important to them and help them in other areas of their life also?
Yep. And that's the thing about being a leader is you have to. I used to read a lot of John Maxwell, and one of the things that he used to say was that you must first touch the heart before you can ask for the hand, and it's true. You have to connect with your employees on a personal level. You got to get to know them, their kids, and everything. And it just overall creates a better environment. When you take that approach.
I got a buddy of mine in Idaho, and his dad was pretty high up at a Walmart. And when he would go to all the stores, like 7 a.m, the night shift would still be stocking. And in every store, he knew at least 2 or 3 of the employees' names, their kids, what events they were doing. And he would sit and talk to them in the mornings. And the rest of the management team's like, what are you doing? And he's just like, you have to care about the people too, not just the product.
Absolutely. That's huge. For sure.
And as long as he worked there, those people were never going anywhere.
Yep. People first.
Yeah.
And it's like you treat your employees the same way you treat your customers. I used to say they're the same thing. Your customers, your employees, it's the same thing. You treat them the same. They mean the same to the company. Like it's all the same thing.
Yeah. And to expand on that, excuse me, I also believe that when you go to like doing your marketing, you need to build a marketing strategy and program if you're going to be doing growth to attract and showcase the culture and to get people like touch points before you actually look to hiring that position, because the people that resonate with your culture, your vision, and your values will rise to that and come into that platform, and it weeds out a lot of the garbage.
Absolutely. You attract the type of people, that whatever you put out, you attract that type of people back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's 100% accurate,
Yeah. I think, and maybe, we can talk about this for a moment because you grew so large and had so many employees, but I find a lot of companies, especially in the excavation industry, it's reactive hiring. Oh God, I've got too many projects. I got to find an operator. And then like, hey, who knows how to use a skid steer? I'll pay this much money. It's all reactive. And they're not being proactive in showcasing the culture, showcasing the ideals, the customer accesses, saying, if you're thinking about leaving or finding a new path and you're interested in excavation, give me a call. And then the cycle of turnover because you're always being reactive.
Absolutely. And another thing that I was big on was training young guys. I used to love bringing in young guys right out of high school and training them up. And I had like 4 of my technicians I trained. They started with my company, Green, didn't know anything, and I trained them and got them in trucks and got them out, producing and making real money for themselves and actually starting to go somewhere in life. I mean, I saw my employees buy houses and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's really neat to see.
Yeah. With the HVAC industry, I hear a lot of people talking about what each employee or each technician should be generating $300,000 a year. Is that the number? Did you
Something
ever do
like that? Just depending on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, depending on who you listen to, the number varies. But yeah, that metric is relatively accurate.
Yeah. And did you have those breakdowns for your employees so you could measure efficiencies with them, or how did you scale your business with your technicians?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I didn't really focus too much on what each guy, I guess, brought into it to a big degree. Really, what you want to focus on are your margins. Your call averages, your average sale. And every year I would do a business planning workshop and kind of figure out where I needed all my numbers to be, all the different metrics, and that's what we would train for, and shoot for every year.
That's awesome. Are you going to maintain that annual business plan meeting, even though it's just yourself?
Probably not, because this thing is simple. That's what I like about what I'm doing now. It's simple.
Okay.
It's not all complicated. Like the last thing was so complicated. It was a big business, and it was so complex, all these different moving parts. And I'm very happy to have something that's a lot more simple right now. And
right.
It's just easy. It's easy to run. It's easy to operate, and there's no headaches at all. There's zero headaches because I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am big on is writing goals every morning. I write my goals down. Visualization is really important in life. Visualizing what you want to do, where you want to go, and that sort of thing. So I'm big on a lot of that kind of stuff. And I'm a self-improvement junkie. I'm always working on myself. I have been since I was in my late 20s, when I started figuring all the stuff out. So all that stuff goes a long way, and all that stuff is really important to me also.
Oh, we could talk for 3 hours on that stuff, because I'm in the same boat you are as far as reading books, trying to do self-improvement. I get my problem is I get a little caught up in the ideas that I want, that I stop tracking the goals sometimes, and I got to get back on track in that. But like every day there's something you can do to make yourself better, and some tip or trick you
Absolutely.
can learn to do that. What's like the best thing you've ever learned on a personal development level that you carry with you every day?
Man, there's just so much. I don't know, a lot of sales stuff that I read, back when I used to be in sales, the sales end of home services, a lot of sales stuff, like customer interaction kind of stuff. But one single thing I don't think really sticks out, but, as we talk, things come to me, and, and I'll say it, because, and that sort of thing. But I don't think one single thing really sticks out.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have a hard. I mean, I was trying to think about mine too while you were thinking, and I was like, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't ask myself that question, because I'd been in the same situation you were in. Like, oh, which one was it?" And I find that when I'm reading books, like I'll migrate to whatever the topic is if it resonates with me, and that'll be the new focus. And then the next book comes along, and then my focus might shift a little bit. But yeah, I think if you're not trying to improve every day, then you're going backwards. You can't stay stagnant in life. You're either improving or declining. Absolutely. And and
there's only two directions: forward and backwards.
Yeah. But like, as with your old last business, like your improvement or your decline is so small on a daily basis, you don't even recognize which way you're going. And it isn't until a time frame passes with a commitment to that direction that you see the hockey stick growth or the hockey stick decline.
Yep.
You didn't hit 20 employees on day 3.
No, not at all. It takes time. It's like what you do now, you'll see the results and the fruits of those labors 3 months from now.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the way it works in business.
Yeah. And life too. And I agree. So all of our goals for our company, we break them down into I call them 90-day years. It's like, what's the big goal for the year? And then how do we break those down into quarters so we can have like a 90-day year that we're really focused on? Because I agree with you. Like what we're doing today in March is going to be what we see in June and July. And what really drove that home for me was SEO for my website, because I don't care how great you do writing today. Like it's going to take 90 days for Google to go, okay, we'll raise that up.
Mm-hmm.
And so just applying that same principle to every other area of our business. But I think a lot of business owners get caught in like what I need to do today or what I need to do tomorrow, that they're not thinking about the plan 6 months from now and the direction, what the decisions they need to make today to get to where they want to be.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. You definitely have to, you got to figure out. And the other thing is, you got to put yourself in a position where customers can find you too. Cause I see a lot of people in these Facebook groups going, how do I get work, this and that. And it's simple. Just like with my last business, look at Coke and Pepsi. They're everywhere. Everywhere you look, you see Coke and Pepsi. Just mimic what they're doing. Be everywhere, and it could be anything. It could be, I used to do lots of different cool stuff, man. There was this little ice cream stand thing in town, and I put my logo on the cups that they would serve their ice cream in, and I'd always run ads in the town newspaper. I supported high school sports teams, and all that stuff. Like, you got to get your name out there, and that's the thing. It's like people don't know who to call. You got to tell them who they need to be calling.
Yeah.
Because the thing about marketing, it's like there's two different sort of umbrellas of marketing. You've got social media, which I use to sort of get my message out to kind of convince people of what services they need. And you've got the Google side of things, to where when they actually need the services, they're going to Google and saying, okay, septic installation in Culpeper. And if you're at the top where they can find you, then you're going to be likely to get that phone call, So there's two different ways. It's like, I use Facebook and social media to kind of tell them what they need. And then Google is there for when they actually need it, and they go to the marketplace looking for someone. Boom, there I am.
Yeah, that's very well put.
Because nobody goes to Facebook to find a service. Nobody goes to Facebook to find a septic installer. Nobody goes to Facebook to find a plumber. Sure, they'll post in the groups and things like that. But usually what they're going to be doing is going to Google and saying, plumbers near me, plumbers in whatever town they live in. And you got to make sure you're at the top of that list.
Mm-hmm. How did you get to the top of that list? Did you do it in-house or did you outsource it?
No, I had a really good marketing company, Levergy. My good friend, Ryan Redding, we got connected when he was like brand new. And I was brand new, and we both kind of grew at the same pace, kind of. And so he runs a really good, one of the top agencies in the industry now, called Levergy. And so I used him my entire time in business, and he always kept me at the top of Google.
Yeah. So I went and looked at your website, and it's if you guys check it out in the show notes, take a look at Russell's website. It's very professional, very well laid out. The images look great. The copy looks really, really nice. So I actually went to the bottom of the page and was like, who made this? And I saw Levergy. I went to their website, like, oh, even better. Like, they specialize in home services, probably a higher focus on HVAC plumbing. But what's the difference between that and excavation, right? Like, you got to tell them a few things for the copy that they may not have a lot of experience in, but it's still a service-based business. They probably do an amazing job for you in that regard. And then I noticed that your buddy Ryan has a podcast. And I'm like, oh, we should maybe collaborate on that. Have you been a guest on his podcast before?
I have. I've been on his show, I think, 2 times.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
I couldn't find your name in the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's there. If you just, I don't know, maybe go to Google. I've done a bunch of podcasts in the home service space. If you just probably Google it, it'll come up, I'm sure. But so he built the website for my new business, RTF Landworks. And when I started this thing, I started as excavation only, because I bought the mini excavator just to really tinker around my house, with all this work that I was doing. But then I was like, I need to just go to work with this thing. Let's just put this thing to work and go do some excavation. So that's why the website, it kind of needs to be refreshed, because when the website was built was when I was first starting, and it was more excavation focused. But now that I've pretty much pivoted into septics, I need to kind of reorganize things and change some things around. So I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow to do that, to get all that taken care of.
Yeah, I did notice that it was more general excavation, a lot on gravel driveways, some other services, and I didn't see much on septic. So
yep.
I assume that's exactly what happened.
Yep. I was doing a lot of gravel driveways there for a while.
That's like free money.
Yeah, it is. But the thing that I learned is most people don't want to spend a lot of money on the driveways though. It's like, you can only get so far with a little mini excavator and some basic equipment like a tractor and excavator. Like you said, you got to niche down into something.
Yeah.
It was septics for me.
Yeah. And I still think if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have an excavation business and you're trying to figure out how to start one and what you want to do first, go do some driveways. Like you can't, it's so hard to mess them up. You're not going to make massive profit margins, but you're going to get experience, time behind sticks. You're going to learn how to talk to customers. Your mistakes are $100 mistakes, not $10,000 mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You get paid to learn, like I was getting paid to learn.
Yep. Get your education.
Yep. I would watch YouTube to learn like how to run an excavator, and then I'd go out my yard and practice.
I mean, you mentioned that and I was laughing reading that. Like, yeah, I got a YouTube degree on excavating. That's how I started. Cause I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So here you are
seriously.
running high tech equipment on the Cat 306, doing all this work by yourself. And your mentor was YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube, man. Digging Life 21, man. Todd's awesome. I used to watch his channel all the time. I still do, but I used to watch his channel all the time, and he's out grading driveways and just doing simple little projects and building roads and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I can do that. Like, that's easy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started in the excavation, which was about June of 2023. It's kind of how I got kicked off, was doing that. Then I got all my licensing squared away for the septics, and I kind of made that pivot about December.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with a long-term vision or goal, is a pump truck in your thought process at all?
No, because I'll tell you what, pump trucks don't make any money. Like the pump truck will get your foot in the door to doing repairs and replacements and that sort of thing. But pumping, I mean, you got a $160,000 truck running around with a driver making however many, $30,000-$40,000 a year. And the math just doesn't math for me. It's like, I'd rather be installing a system, not running a pump truck, so I'd have to hire someone to run the pump truck. And at $400 a pump, where's the money in that? I'd rather just stick to installations.
Yeah. I read some facts somewhere not too long ago, because I've got some friends locally that are in septic systems, but they say septic installation companies that also have a pump truck generate almost a third of their install business from the pump truck, because it's the first interaction with the customer.
Absolutely. And that's what the pump truck does. The pump truck can generate the repairs and the replacements, but at the same time, you've got a lot of overhead in that truck, and you got overhead in an employee running it, and insurance. And all that is just complexities I don't want to mess with, because like I said, my last business was so complex. My insurance was so expensive, and just the overhead was, the freaking overhead was like $1.2 million a year. And my payroll was like 25 grand a week. And like my insurance was 70 grand a year. And like, I don't want nothing to do with any of that anymore. It's too much.
Yeah. It's kind of head scratching when you sit back. It's head scratching when you sit back and go, oh, break even's $3 million. Nice.
Yeah. I like simple these days, man. And just out banging installations by myself. That's simple.
Yeah. Have you connected with any company? Is there any pump specific companies in your area that don't do install? They just do the pumping? Because I know a lot of areas there's companies that do that solely.
Yeah. There's guys around here that just do pumping and like light repairs.
Yeah. And are you networking with them and reference, going to pass them the pumps? They pass you the big repairs and installs and.
Yep. I've got a guy out here locally that I recommend for pumping.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing a lot of business owners forget to do. You get so caught in growing your own business that you don't realize that you could leverage partnerships with other service industry based businesses or insurance agents, real estate agents that actually go find work for you while you're doing other work. So if that guy's pumping
Absolutely.
4 houses a day and 2 systems a week have repairs that he's not equipped to fix, and he's sending that business to you, that's better than spending $500 a week on Google.
Absolutely. For sure, man. Yep.
You send them some thank you cards or this, or, have some sort of a referral program set up.
Yeah.
And,
yep.
I'm a big proponent of leveraging other people.
Yeah, for sure. So am I, because we can all help each other.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, we talked to a guy who, I mean, he's working with 5 or 6 other excavation companies, not working with, but in constant communication. And based on their skill set and their wheelhouse, they're just passing jobs to each other. And all 6 of them are doing more work than they ever had when they were trying to do it and grind it out solo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. And that like I did the same thing when I had my business before. Like, um, and here's the thing: it's like, I know I wanted to add electrical and HVAC, so I was already advertising it before I was even doing the services because it got my phone ringing for it. But what I did is I just kind of said, hey, we're not quite there yet. Call such and such across town. They're a good company. They'll take good care of you. Um, so that my phone was already ringing for these HVAC and electrical calls. So that by the time I had my technicians and my truck and everything ready to go, my board was already full. And it was just turnkey. A lot of people, they want to sit here and they won't start advertising until they actually start doing it. And I just think that's the wrong approach. Like, get the phone ringing for it first, and if you farm it out to your friend across town, at least your phone's ringing for it. And then at a certain point, you just start booking the calls on your own board.
Yeah. You and I have the same philosophy on that, man. Sell it before you build it.
Yeah. Figure it out.
It's proof of concept in the market for your area.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like all that little work, like why would you want to pay 2 technicians and have all the expense of getting that operation up and running? And then you got to spend the next 3 months spending a ton of money in advertising to get the phone ringing when you could start getting the phone ringing 4 months earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, the guys are sitting around with nothing to do.
Yep. And you want to talk about a culture killer, find guys with no work to do.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That'll kill it real quick.
Yeah. I mean, shit, you're living proof of that. You went stir crazy on your own.
I know. For real, man.
Yeah. So one of the other things that you were talking about before the show and all that is, geez, where is it? I'm losing myself here. We've talked about niche selection and how important that is and niching down. You talked about just licensing in general outside of your septic system license. Do you have other licenses? And do you find how important that is for your marketplace?
That's huge because that can diversify you from the rest of the competition. So, and general excavation, you don't need any licensing to do general excavation,
Right.
and that's the other thing that why there's so much competition in that space. Everyone's competing over the same kind of, low hanging fruit jobs that are out there. Now, so I have just in general, I've got my plumbing license, my gas license, HVAC, electrical, my septic installation license, and my septic operator license, and I got a Class A contractor's license. So those are all the licenses that I have, and those are all my ticket to be able to provide for my family. I've got a non-compete, so I can't do plumbing, electrical, or HVAC for 5 years. So that's another reason why I went into the septic installations, because the company that bought my company, they don't do septic installations, and there's no conflict on the non-compete. So that kind of helped drive my decision too. But it's just perfect. It fits me, fits my skill set perfectly.
Yeah. Now, I guess one of the things, I don't know how it is in Virginia, but like in Illinois, an excavation company, it's not a septic system, but if you're doing work on somebody's property and you need to tie back into the main sewer line, like you can't do that if you're not a plumber in the state of Illinois. Is it like that in Virginia?
Here. Yeah.
Now, being an excavation company, you're not selling that service, but you're offering it with the excavation work, even with your non-compete. Is that a way you could still differentiate yourself from other excavation companies?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Because out here, excavation companies, they don't do septics really. They just do excavation stuff. And it's like, and to really make any money in excavation, you got to do big stuff. You got to big equipment doing, big lot clearing and things like that. And so that's why I went into septics. I know it, to a large degree, and it just fits my skill set, like I said.
Yeah, and your skill set obviously was the driving factor for you selecting that niche, is what I'm taking away from this conversation. But I love septic systems because they're recession proof.
They are. Absolutely. And not only that, when a customer needs a septic system, they know it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. It's not like going to a customer's house where they need a water heater and you're trying to get $3,000 out of a 50-gallon gas, and the next guy is going to do it for $1,800, and the customer has no money and they get bad credit and they can't finance or write you a check. It's just like that's basically the home services industry in a nutshell to a great extent, but septics, on the other hand, they know they need tens of thousands of dollars to get their septic system working, and replaced or installed or whatever. So it's just been way easier.
Yeah. But I mean, I love having recession-proof services. Like it's
absolutely
like, why would you want? Yeah, you could ride the high and you could have some really great years, but then you have some really shitty years too.
Yeah. And I saw the economy turning as 2022 went on. I saw the economy turning, and that's another driving factor that I had in moving to sell my business that year. I said, it's time to let this thing go because, people are tightening their wallets, and things like that. Things were just changing,
Yeah. And the other thing that was staggering to me was it's between 20 and 25%, I believe, of all homes in the US are on a septic system.
Yeah. I forget that figure. It might even be higher. For some reason, 40% is in my head.
But I thought for sure it was going to be like 15, 10%. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot more houses than I thought.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I've got my alternative license too. So I can do alternative systems, which is where a lot of them are going now. And, and it's like, I don't want to compete on all these conventional gravity systems that everyone else is bidding. I want to be able to get into these high-end complex alternative systems.
Yeah. I need to connect you with Neil Girardi. I just did an interview with him not too long ago. He's up in Delaware, and he's the same. Like he's been doing it for 30 some years, and the complex systems is where he's been really niching into, and it's been a great move for him.
Yep. I've got some estimates out now. I'm hoping I can start getting some of these jobs, but they're crazy, man. I was really fascinated to learn that basically some of these alternative systems, they just discharge out into creeks and streams, and
the water
discharge out on the proper. Because the effluent is treated to a level. There's these treatment units that treat it to a level where it can just discharge out into the stream. It's crazy.
Russell, I've seen reports where that water coming out is actually cleaner than the water that's provided by the water department for cities.
I believe it.
I'm not drinking it, but it passes tap water tests.
Yep. I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't do it.
So I like those systems are really fascinating to me, and I want to start getting into stuff like that. And I'd like to do like some RV park, some large RV park systems, and just do some complex stuff, man. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And another beautiful thing is septic systems is they have a lifespan, and there's a lot of houses in the market that are 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't need to do new construction to make a great living, because you could just do replacements.
Yeah, for sure. Because people have to have a septic system. When their septic fails, it's got to get replaced. The health department will condemn their house if their septic is failed.
Yeah.
Or they got to do a pump and haul where they got to have their tank pumped every, couple of weeks or whatever.
Ugh.
So it's one of those things you got to have. It's like a customer can live with the drippy faucet. A customer can live with running out of hot water, but they can't live with a bad septic system.
Right. So
and, that kind of takes me to another point I'd like to make. Is like trying to find other things to help the customers with, because like I used to train my employees all the time. It's like we may get called out because a hot water heater has busted, it's leaking everywhere, or there's no hot water, or there's no AC or whatever. Yet the customer's been living with a drippy faucet in their master bathroom for the past 6 months. They've been living with a running toilet, for the past year, and they've just gotten used to it. So it's important to engage with the customer in a way where they're like, oh yeah, well, you know what? I do have this drippy faucet upstairs. Let's go have a look, that sort of thing. So, just finding other ways to help the customer too will help to differentiate yourself from the competition.
Yeah. I my new philosophy, and is just a new way of wording it. I think the hardest thing for any excavation company, let's say specifically for that niche, but any home service business company, I think the hardest thing to do is actually get in the door on the property of a customer.
Yep.
And if
for
you can
sure.
get
It
there, then
absolutely
it's
is.
your responsibility to be the most valuable person you can be to them so that you can increase the amount of services that you offer, which would help you with your profits, or just find little things to just make you memorable.
Yep. And that's it. Be memorable, because, always, I was always really diligent about putting stickers and labels and valve tags and everything, because a lot of times once you walk out the door, they can't remember who they called, you know?
Right.
So next time they need something, boom, your stickers are all over everything. And hey, let's call these guys.
Yeah. We were just joking about that. Why not? I'm just talking about it. I had to have my septic pump last year, and my buddies own a septic installation company. They don't do pumping. So they recommended their buddy that does it. And their company was great. The owner was awesome, easy to talk to. They were here the day they said they're going to be here within the hour window. They walked through everything, you would never even know they were here. It was great. 2 days later, someone's like, "Who did your pumping?" I'm like, "Shit, I don't remember their name."
Yeah.
I can tell you all the
Yep.
things I liked about them, but I can't tell you their name.
Yeah. Yep. You gotta be memorable. And, all my communications, I have a CRM called House Call Pro, which is really cool, so everything is presented well for the customer. They can always reference all their invoices and everything in their email. They get notifications when I'm on the way. And, so it just all goes back to that customer experience.
You bring up House Call Pro. I'm not familiar with that system at all, but I'm going to assume with your knowledge in plumbing and all the HVAC work, you're using a lot of the same tools that you did in those industries.
Absolutely. And that's what gives me a leg up on the competition, because I'm bringing everything I did in the home services industry to the excavation and septic industry. And this industry is still behind the times. It's like plumbing was in the 90s. Plumbing has come so far because it's really gotten refined business wise, but septic and excavation is still way far behind. So to be able to provide the customer experience that I'm used to providing, it just helps set me apart from everyone else.
Yeah. Was there much tweaking that you had to do to that software to make it work for excavation or for septics, or was it
No, it's
pretty
way
simple?
easier. It's way easier. I was actually on a different software with my other company called Service Titan, which is a really great software, but it's just very, very complex, very expensive. I was paying 40 grand a year just for that software, man. I mean, when I talk about the cost of running that big business, it's like, that's why I like the simplicity of what I'm doing now.
Yeah. But I think it's good to say, hey, look outside the box. Just because this software doesn't say it's made for septic system installers or for excavation companies, if it's made for home service based business, like the process should be very similar.
Yep, it's very, very similar. This House Call Pro does everything I needed to do. It does everything that I needed to do, and it provides that experience for the customer. The notifications. All the cool kind of stuff that the customer, finds value in.
Yeah, I think that's just take that away from if you're listening out that like go look for solutions in home service businesses, not excavation businesses, because it's an easy, quick way to get a leg up on other people in your area.
Yeah, because the industry is so much farther ahead than excavation. And it's the same thing. You're still making house calls. You're just, instead of working on toilets, you're working on their driveway or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing. It's what matters is the customer experience.
Yeah. Because there's so many guys out there that are still running their business out of a notebook.
Yep. Or using QuickBooks, to do estimates and all this other stuff. I see people on Facebook all the time, talking about, what software is good because they're using QuickBooks. And yeah, QuickBooks is good for accounting, but it's not really good to run your business through. There's much better options out there.
Yeah, those estimates. I asked people when we do our coaching and consulting, I'm like, have you ever sent yourself an estimate from QuickBooks? And they're like, no. So do it right now. And he goes, oh my God. I'm like, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible, man.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's horrible, So that's smart. It's like send it to yourself. And I do the same thing back when I was setting all my stuff up. Like, I got to see what this thing looks like,
Yeah.
What's the customer seeing?
Yeah. And then the other piece of advice I gave those people too was like, have your wife look at your estimates before you send them to the customers. Because if she's like, what's this mean? 90% of the time, the customer is going to ask that same question. So
absolutely. And that's the other thing I used to train my guys on all the time. It's like, use everyday language that people understand. You can't sit here and talk to the customer like you're talking to your technician buddy, with all these technical terms. It makes the customers feel stupid because they don't know what you're talking about. and they're not going to buy anything because they don't know what the hell you're talking about. So speak in easy terms that they understand.
Yep. I'm gonna call him out. You're wearing the cat hat, so I'm gonna call him out. But I live in Peoria, Illinois, and this used to be the world headquarters for cat. So like I joke that 1 in 3 people in town work for cat. So a lot of my friends work for Caterpillar, and inside Caterpillar, these damn people, they put a 3-letter acronym on everything. Like everything's got a 3-letter acronym to it. So even they make jokes about that, saying, "Oh, we're going to get some more TLAs for 3-letter acronym." But we'll be out having drinks or dinner or something like that. And if there's more than one cat guy and they start talking work, like I'm uninterested. I'm not paying attention because I can't follow all the little jargon terms they use. And they're like, "Hey, you sick tonight? You're not feeling well?" I said, "No, I'm just bored out of my mind because you guys are speaking a different language."
Yep, different language. You got to speak in terms that people understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they said that. I think they say that instruction manuals are written at a 4th grade reading level for that reason.
Wow, yeah. Yep, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I see people always asking is like, what should I be charging? I see that constantly every single day, and it's like, well, you charge your day rate. Well, what's the day rate? It's like, it's not that difficult, So I'd like to break that down real fast because I feel like some people could get value out of that, So it's not difficult. So number one, how much money do you need to live every month? All right. So everyone should know that. All right. Now, what are your business operating expenses? Your machinery, your fuel, your insurance, all that stuff. Everyone should know that too. It's not difficult. So for easy numbers, let's say you need let's say you need 15 grand a month after expenses, and that's your break even. You got to establish what your break even is. So your break even's $15,000 a month. And let's say you want to put 10 grand a month in the bank. So you need $25,000 a month after expenses, after your job expenses, whatever you're buying, gravel or whatever, all that stuff that gets added on top. So you need 25 grand a month after your expenses. All right. Now you got to realize there's an average of 21 days a month that you're going to work. It's an average of 21 working days in a month. All right. Now, what you also have to understand is how many days a month are you actually running that equipment and billing, because that's your operational efficiency. Now, most people, very few people, probably almost no one is 100% efficient. They're not billing 21 days a month. They're probably more like billing 12 to 15 because you're moving equipment around, you're running estimates, whatever. You're not usually running your equipment 5 days a week and actually making money like that. So you got to figure out your operational efficiency. Most guys are probably billing 3 or 4 days a week, So for easy math, let's say you got 25 grand a month you got to cover after expenses. You got 21 working days in a month. Let's say you're billing 12. That's going to give you a 57% operational efficiency. So you're 57% efficient. And that's a key number. So now you would take your 25 grand, you're going to divide that by 12 because that's how many days you're billing in a month. So that's going to put your day rate at $2,083. So $2,083, 3 days a week, 4 weeks a month is going to give you your 25 grand. And that's a pretty simple formula to follow.
That is really simple. I like that one. I hate doing day rates and hourly rates. I feel like you're just replacing a job for a different job with a lot more expenses.
Yeah. But when you're building an estimate, you got to figure how long is this job going to take me? If this job's going to take me this job's going to take me 5 days. So, you put 5 days of your day rate into that job.
Yeah.
And if you get it done in 3, then you're ahead of the game. You get hung up on something. Hopefully you got some language in your contract where you can charge extra if you hit rock and that sort of thing.
Right.
But, that just helps you understand, when you're doing a bid, how to actually create that price.
Yeah. And you talked about operational efficiency a lot. Like, is that a number that you really track and follow on a regular basis? How important is that number to you?
With my last business, I did, because that was vital and understanding what your hourly rate should be, because a service company only bills on average 3.2 hours a day. So you're out here working 10 hours a day, but most of the time you're driving around, you're meeting with customers, you're only actually working and generating money 3.2 hours a day.
Wow.
So it was very, very important with my last business. This business, I'm just kind of learning. I'm still kind of learning what my average billable days per week are. So, I don't really track it, like I could. It's very easy to track in like House Call Pro, which is, they call it a CRM, a customer relationship management software. You know, you can pretty simply do it there, if you wanted to. Just basically by booking calls on every day that you're actually running your equipment, you would book a call on yourself, and then you would be able to track it that way.
Got it.
It'd be the easiest way.
So if you didn't have the background knowledge that you have from owning the plumbing and home service business, and you're 6 months or a year into an excavation business, like what roadblocks do you think you'd be hitting, and what advice would you give yourself so that you could minimize that learning curve?
Well, the roadblocks definitely be customer experience, because that's a huge thing in the excavation business. It's like, these guys are just old school, and they feel like the customer's on their time. It's like, no, you're on the customer's time, So number one is customer experience. Number two is pricing. What should I be charging? And understanding that operational efficiency is huge, because I think people think that they're going to be out there billing 5 days a week, and you're just not, and understanding what your costs are and how to break that down into basically a billable rate that you can get. And those are the two main things: customer experience and understanding what to charge.
I agree with you. I think too many excavation, especially we talked about excavation, but I think too many of them are worried about themselves and not the customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't leave the house if I can't make this much money, or this won't get done for that price. I need this. I need to make sure I make this. And nobody worries about the customer. They just want to take their money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, it's all about the customer. And it also helps if you have a love and a passion to help people too. That helps.
Yeah, big time. And if you don't have it, go find a partner that does. No, hire your first employee that does. Fill the gap. Fill the gap.
Yep.
Man, Russell, we covered a lot of good topics, and I still am just mesmerized with your story. I'm even more proud to hear it from you personally, just because you set out with a vision to sell it, like from day one. And that excited me when I heard you say that, because like you had a full vision. It didn't just happen by coincidence. You knew exactly how to structure it. And now you're able to find, you've got a little bit of financial freedom. You're able to find a purpose with some excavation and septic, use the skill set that you have, provide a great service to your community. And you're filling a gap that it just sits around. And I think anyone can do that in any market.
Absolutely, they can, for sure.
So I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day and joining us for the podcast and sharing your story and your nuggets of information and advice, so that other guys out there can become better owners and operators too.
For sure. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's another great episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. Check out the show notes. We'll have links to Russell's website, his social media site. And if you want to reach out and connect to him, tell him thanks for sharing his story, please do. Any questions for us, make sure you send them our way over to Skid Steer Nation. And until next week, guys, take care.